So it was sort of like a meteor shower and not anywhere to run.
Randy, we're hearing reports of other things being found over in the St. Augustine area as well. Have you heard anything from your neighbors, or have you heard from authorities there about some of the other things that may have come down?
Well, actually, we're quite a distance from anyone else. Our nearest neighbor is probably half a mile away. So we're rather secluded out here.
Right. I'm sorry, our producer's talking to us. I couldn't hear exactly. You're about a half mile away?
Yeah, well, we're a half many of our neighbors.
Right, I understand.
And we really haven't heard anything. We have a debris field out here, small pieces ranging from the size of a fist up to very small pieces. Even there was a piece out here in the past.
Tell me, Randy, how far are you from the Dallas-Fort Worth area?
We're about a 3-hour drive from Dallas.
Okay, so you obviously will be over 100 miles in from us.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
We're significant.
Well, we're trying to get a signal in from our helicopter right now. It's having a difficult time because of where it's flying, but it's up north of Dallas. They were looking into the possibility up around the Plano area of some debris having fallen there. We don't know for sure that this is debris. It might be something else. There had been reports this morning of something going through the top of an apartment building and starting a fire there, and they were looking into that as well. But again, all of this is unconfirmed as to whether it's related at all to the shuttle disaster.
And well, Tracy, I can assure you that this debris came from the shuttle.
Okay, well, Randy Ward calling from the Lufkin area. Thank you very much for taking the time to call us. We want to go now back to Neil Barton in the Storm Center. Neil?
Well, this just kind of puts things in perspective once again. The gentleman that you just spoke with are in the St. Augustine area that is just north of Lake Sam Rayburn. Again, here's Lufkin, here's Nacogdoches. All morning long we've been talking around the Nacogdoches area. In fact, around the Commercial National Bank in downtown Nacogdoches of debris being confirmed found there. Once again, here's the Sam Rayburn Lake area. Here's Toledo Bend. And then again, the Toledo Bend area is this huge lake that's right on the Sabine River, which is right on the Texas-Louisiana border. So pretty much what the gentleman is saying is confirming what our map here is confirming as well. Here's the debris field from early this morning. Here is Tyler, here's Lufkin, and all across deep East Texas and Smith County and places like that in Palestine, we are getting reports this morning, some confirmed, some not confirmed, of debris that is on the ground, things falling out of the sky. Also fires here and there. I'm sure all Saturday afternoon long we'll be getting reports of some fires across East and Southeast Texas. But once again, the gentleman you were just talking to is just to the north of Sam Rayburn Lake, which is right through here, which pretty much coincides along with this debris field. Now back to you.
All right, Neil, thank you very much. And as Randy Ward was telling us from the Lufkin area, he heard staccato type explosions over his house, and he was standing in his yard, and pieces of debris were literally raining around him.
Yeah, that could have been actually the debris hitting, too, around the area rather than an explosion itself. As it was coming down in so many small pieces, he said, that it had that kind of a staccato effect. The president still has not come out to make any comment. He has been apprised, of course, of the situation, and I'm sure that he's waiting to see exactly what all the details are. And perhaps they're trying at this point, at least, to see what kind of a debris pattern they'll be able to come up with. The president, of course, would like to say as much as he possibly can. I suspect he may want to talk to family members there in Florida who were waiting for this craft to come down this morning. It was supposed to land at about 8:15 Dallas time. All of this stuff started happening at about 8 o'clock. You can imagine they're flying at such a high rate of speed.
Houston.
So actually, in terms of flight and the way the thing was coming down, it's a very short distance in time between Texas and Florida where it was scheduled to come down. Former astronaut John Glenn and his wife were also watching on television this morning, and of course he had many comments from their home in Maryland, and he said anytime you lose contact like that, there is a big problem. And you want to wait for several minutes without any contact. You knew that something was terribly wrong, according to Glenn. A senior U.S. official who was speaking on condition of anonymity said that there was no threat made against the flight and that the shuttle was out of range of any surface-to-air missile. So if you're hearing stories like that, at least the government today is saying this was not terrorism.
And taking a brief look now at the astronauts on board the Shuttle Columbia, if we can show their pictures again. we've got a portrait.
Well, here they are actually on the shuttle itself.
doing some work. The commander, his name was Rick Husband, and I apologize if I'm speaking in the past tense. 45 years old, Air Force colonel from Amarillo. He's a former test pilot and was selected as an astronaut in 1994. He said it was a lifelong dream and a thrill to actually be able to live it out. It was his second space flight.
Space Shuttle Columbia apparently broke apart in flames. It streaked over Texas, heading for Florida, trying to put down there. And suddenly, as we saw, there was this terrible thing that was happening in the sky. It's fairly routine that when they have a nice landing, that is to say there isn't some kind of an overcast condition that exists in Florida where that has to be diverted then to Edwards Air Force Base, it comes down in Florida. And when it comes down in Florida, it always passes over the Texas area. So we've seen this a number of times before. It was nothing that was particularly newsworthy even, except of course then suddenly the shuttle started breaking apart, and there were then reports of explosions, some people reporting several explosions, some saying no, there was just one loud explosion, some comparing it to perhaps a sonic boom, but it was heard over a large part of North Texas. And then the debris reports started coming in, and that's over a large area in East Texas.
And again, these are pictures that were taken from one of our viewers, Jim Lebens, excuse me, working on a tower. He and his crew, they said they were on top of a tower this morning. They saw the shuttle pass over, but they believed because of the breakup that they saw that perhaps it was some sort of a meteorite, that they had no way of knowing that that breakup that they saw was indeed the shuttle.
On the telephone right now we have a Bob Bison, who was another witness. He's in Fort Worth. Bob, what did you see?
I was in West Fort Worth, and before it got overhead, I saw little side pieces flaking off, other ionized trails besides the main one. And it was also, instead of a yellow ionized trail, the white trail that I saw, there were puffs. It was not a steady trail like the other two landings I had seen years before.
What would that perhaps indicate to you, Bob?
Well, it was already breaking up before it got to Fort Worth, before it got past us.
Did you hear anything?
No, it was too high. It was above the atmosphere here, so you couldn't have heard anything until it got lower.
Okay, Bob Bison, Fort Worth witness, sharing with us. NASA today did not immediately declare the crew dead. However, the U.S. flag next to its countdown clock was lowered to half staff. Officials at the Kennedy Space Center said President Bush would be making an announcement. We're still waiting for that. We're also waiting for a news conference from NASA in Washington. Administration officials had said there was no immediate indication of terrorism. We'll say that several times because for the first time an Israeli astronaut was on board this shuttle flight and was doing scientific experiments. A well-known Israeli colonel, in fact, a hero in Israel.
And Tracy, what we're looking at now, this is a picture taken by a photographer for the Nacogdoches Daily Sentinel. It appears to be a part of the space shuttle there in downtown Nacogdoches. I understand there was some debris over by the State Bank in that downtown area. And Neil Barton has been showing us the debris field that actually stretches from, it looks like the southeast part of the Tyler area, Corsicana area, stretching on down south through Nacogdoches.
Near Waxahachie now, we understand we have someone who was able to see. I'm sorry, I missed your name. I know your first name is Mary. What is your last name, please?
Vineyard.
And what did you see, please?
Okay, looking out my window, southeast, I'm talking on the phone, and I see like a plane, how they leave the white smoke, and it's just sitting there. It's not going anywhere. So it caught my attention, and I continue to watch it, and all of a sudden it goes due south for maybe what I would say, 20 feet, but it's way up in the air, and then it descends straight down. Okay. So I'm on the phone to my niece, and then like a minute later, it appeared the same object in the same spot, maybe a little closer to me. And then this one goes due south, makes a turn and goes exactly due north, and then descends straight down. And it's I didn't have a camcorder to get it, but nothing like that has been reported. So it was, either debris. It had to be a massive part of the shuttle because it appeared to be just like a plane. But then it started doing this zigzag pattern and descended straight down.
Mary Senyard from Rocket, Texas, a witness to what we're talking about this morning. And now we understand that NASA has said that the shuttle has crashed, and they are declaring all 7 astronauts on board to be deceased. This was a big, big thing for the people of Israel. I mentioned a moment ago that I was over there when the shuttle went up, and I just can't tell you the kind of clamor that was surrounding this, something that was very positive for the people of Israel after 28 months of violence now in that part of the world. And today the government of Israel and the people of Israel are praying together with the entire world for the safety of the astronauts in the Shuttle Columbia. That from Prime Minister Ariel Sharon's office, that in a statement. Columbia's crew had completed 80-plus scientific research experiments during their time in orbit. Only 3 of the 7 astronauts had flown in space before. The shuttle's commander, Rick Husband, Michael Anderson, and Kalpana Chawla, the young woman who had graduated from Arlington. The other 4 were rookies, pilot William McCool, David Brown, Laurel Clark, and Colonel Ramon from Israel. And just in the past week, NASA observed the anniversary of its only 2 other space tragedies, the Challenger explosion, which killed all 7 astronauts at that time, and then the Apollo spacecraft fire that killed 3 on January 27th, 1967. Now,
we were briefly, it looks like our helicopter is over the Palestine area, just south of Palestine. And there appears to be a fire on the ground there. We had some images that were briefly flashing across your screen. We seem to be having some technical problems there, but
yeah, they have to hit a send point, and if you get some kind of interference between wherever the helicopter is and where that picture has to come in, then you'll get these flashes. But that's what you were seeing. We're trying to show it to you. Camera is trying to lock down now, and as we go around, if you don't mind, we'll continue to talk, and we'll try to show you these pictures because they're popping in and out right now. But this is one of the debris fields, we understand, and that's where a fire has taken place, again, in the Palestine area. And if you'll notice, this area, if we can see it again, just now people are arriving on the scene to try to determine exactly what this was, and we don't know exactly what came down in this area.
Tracy, joining us now by phone is Larry Walden, an emergency coordinator. He joins us now from Anderson County. Mr. Walden, what can you tell us?
What I can tell you at this point is we do have a command post set up at the Sheriff's Department here in Palestine. We have the volunteer fire departments out. We're taking a lot of calls on debris, and at this time we're trying to determine if they're valid from this space shuttle. And we're in touch with the governor's office. We also FBI, and we're trying to get on top of it. We're just overwhelmed at this point.
Mr. Walden, how far are you from Nacogdoches?
About
roughly?
75 miles.
So it looks like this debris field, because we've been showing pictures, you've got some debris there in the Palestine area. It is going to be a rather large field, isn't it?
Yes. Are you there?
We're here. Yeah, I understand you. I don't know if you're listening to us, if there's a delay or something, but yes, we're here. Go ahead, please.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
All right. Well, I'm sorry that we've lost you, Mr. Walding. As Mr. Walding was pointing out to us, in the Palestine area, they've set up a command post. Can you hear me now, Mr. Walding?
Well, just barely. There's talking in the background, but there's several reports of debris in Anderson County, and at this time we're trying to make sure that that's what it's from, and we're taping them off, and we're asking the people, please, don't, if you see any of this, if you think it's debris from this shuttle, don't pick it up. It could be toxic, so we ask that you wouldn't, if you see it, just report it and let us go out and check it out ourselves, and we just ask the people not to be picking this stuff up.
Okay, Larry Walding from the Emergency Management Office setting up a command post there, and obviously this would be for Anderson County. Some of the command posts that will be set up, and there'll be more than one, although we assume that when NASA comes in and takes charge, there'll be one central location. But all of these areas now are getting some assistance from the federal government in the way that they are dispersing people, especially FBI agents and others, to help them as they're trying to coordinate what's going to be a massive project in trying to identify this stuff, first of all, finding out where it came down, identifying the exact and rather large landing area where the material came in, and then, of course, trying to collect all this material.
And our meteorologists Neil Barton and Mike Berger have been tracking the debris field, and it looks like it's really stretching from through the Nacogdoches area, Palestine, as we've seen, St. Augustine, Mansfield, Louisiana, Leeville, Louisiana. Again, the space shuttle was traveling at 6 times the speed of sound. This probably will be a very large debris field. As Tracy mentioned a few minutes ago, a U.S. official has declared the Space Shuttle Columbia gone, along with its crew.
Here's some amateur video that we're going to follow. We're seeing this also for the first time. Our folks have looked at it and now put it up on the air, but let's see what we've got. Obviously, whoever this was who shot it was having a difficult time following the shuttle as it was coming in, but you can begin to see some of the material breaking up and breaking away from this. You've seen some other video that was on CBS News earlier, but this, again, amateur video, and that wasn't coming down necessarily. It was going across, and it's difficult to tell sometimes, at least in terms of a video perspective, exactly the pattern that this thing is making or exactly how it's flying. That was re-entering the atmosphere, but that was at about 200,000 feet as we repeat this video. And again, this person trying to hang on to this, but this is at a tremendous distance from where that camera is, of course, and trying to follow it. There you can see pieces, we know now, pieces of the shuttle coming apart. NASA saying just a short time ago that the shuttle is lost and all 7 astronauts are dead from this crash today and from this terrible tragedy that's hit NASA and hit the space program for this country.
Now, Tracy, the Space Shuttle Columbia, for those who aren't familiar with the Space Shuttle program, was a pioneer in the NASA's fleet. It was the oldest in the fleet, the first to enter Earth's orbit in 1981. It is the latest voyage, the 28th trip into orbit. Columbia was named after the ship that made the first American circling of the globe in 1792. Again, the Columbia was the oldest shuttle in the NASA fleet, making its first trip into orbit roughly 22 years ago.
I actually was right up, walked under, around, all around the Columbia when it was hangared we were doing a report from NASA, and was down there for one of the earlier launches and was able to see Columbia at that time. All of the shuttles are just absolutely magnificent craft. I mean, it's just a tragedy. I don't mean to speak the obvious, but I think we all share in this. One of our witnesses having a difficult time telling us just a moment ago what she had seen, because the emotion of the moment has reached her, as I'm sure it will all of us. The folks in Israel had seen this as just sort of a major positive for them, and to have it turn around the way it has now for all of us is just a terrible thing. Karen.
And we are joined now by Raymond Cervantes. He is with the Hispanic Broadcasting Corporation. And Mr. Cervantes, I understand that was your video that we were looking at just a few moments ago.
Yes, it was.
And where were you when you took this?
Outside my house around 7:59 this morning.
And where is your house?
Located near Fort Worth,
okay.
Near the Trinity Bell helicopter area.
Okay.
Noticed the shuttle was coming by and decided to go out there and shoot some video. And shooting the video, noticed something strange, something that wasn't supposed to be happening. Noticed, looked like tile might be coming off of it. And as you can see on the video here, unbelievable.
Did you know then at that moment what was happening?
Yes, that's right. Noticed something before, seen previous shuttle reentries, and noticed that the unbelievable sight. You would see that the tiles or something might have happened. This is something catastrophic.
So this was passing over like west to east, from your perspective?
That is right. It was coming over Los Angeles, and at that time I was watching NASA's Select channel and monitoring the NASA channel and noticing that it would be coming over. So I came over and outside and noticed from west to east that it was a beautiful sight, as always, as it comes over. but then you notice something was going terribly wrong as you notice parts and particles of the shuttle were coming off.
Yeah, it's really difficult to tell from your video, Raymond, how many pieces were coming down. Some obviously would have been too small to even see with the most sophisticated camera, but you can see, and your video captures very clearly, that it had broken apart. Did you hear an explosion?
I did, and it was about 10 minutes later. It happened around, I think it was like 8:05, and I did notice something that shook the house. And I live next to a Bell helicopter, and usually you hear sounds of helicopters and trucks going by, but this was a distinctly different sound. It was something that rattled the house, and I knew something must have happened, so I didn't switch on the television to learn that something tragic like this did happen. You know,
the shuttle program we've had 88 flights since the Challenger explosion 17 years ago, and they've almost become routine for so many people that they don't bother to look. So someone like Raymond, who actually followed the flight from Los Angeles and was watching on the NASA Select, it really must have been startling, because so many people who we've talked to just looked in the sky and saw something unusual, but you knew this was probably the shuttle. This is something that doesn't happen. You see parts coming off. Usually on a routine shuttle reentry over Fort Worth and Dallas, you'll notice the shuttle just like this, but then you don't see the other particles coming off.
It almost looked like there was an airplane. It was in the southern part of your picture there at the when it was a point, but maybe that was a piece of the debris coming off of it as well.
It looks, when it first starts off, a normal reentry, as other previous shuttles you see over Fort Worth and Dallas, a nice big trail, the plasma trail behind it, but then something does go wrong, and you do see particles and stuff coming off of the shuttle, and it's very tragic. All right. Thank you very much, Raymond Cervantes. We appreciate your joining us this morning.
Nicely done, Raymond. We'll be using your video, I'm sure, many times through the day. We appreciate you bringing it in to us.
And we are joined by phone now by Ron Whitting. He is a photographer, and he also witnessed.
Ron, what'd you see?
Yes, Tracy, I can barely hear you. I'm getting TV commercials in the background on the telephone, but I am at the Mr. Brown's farm here, about 5 miles due west of Highway 155, where a large piece of debris from the shuttle was discovered. And I was there before the authorities got there. The piece of fuselage, you can tell by looking at the actual description of it, by looking at it, it did come from the space shuttle.
Now, Ron, I'm sorry, our producer was talking to us. Where did you say you were when this happened?
I'm exactly 8 to 10 miles north of Palestine on Highway 155. And right now I'm at a farm about 5 miles from the scene because they're not letting hardly anybody get close to it at this time.
Yeah, we've seen some fires in that area.
That's correct.
You've seen a lot of fires because of the apparent debris?
Apparently so. There's been some reports that a piece had fallen into a lake nearby, a private lake, and there are officials all over the place. There's military aircraft flying all over, and just everybody's looking as diligently as they possibly can.
Yeah, I suspect that they're going to be blocking off a lot of that area by air as well, so that some of the helicopters from the television stations won't be able to get in.
That's correct, Tracy. I heard a U.S. Marshal just a few minutes ago making a call to request that they not block the airspace off completely for the time being.
Yeah, you know that has to happen, and they will try very hard now to try to find firsthand where this stuff has been coming down. And they don't want the media out there trying to tell everybody where it is, frankly, because they don't want a lot of sightseers or souvenir hunters, going out and trying to pick these pieces up.
Also, too, Tracy, there's one place that I had found another piece of debris on the side of 321 before I came to Mr. Brown's farm to use the phone that they wouldn't even let me take a picture of, and it wasn't even bigger than a coffee cup.
So who was out there, Ron? Who was they that wouldn't let you take a picture?
It was the local fire department. Volunteer fire department had been instructed by the federal people and the sheriff department not to let the media take any pictures of it.
Yeah, well, did it just look like a piece of aluminum, maybe a heat shield to you, Ron?
It wasn't even that big, Tracy. It was about as big as a coffee cup. Now, the one I got video on just a few minutes ago is about an 8 by 12 or 8 by 15 piece that you could definitely tell it came from the shuttle.
Now, you say you're at Mr. Brown's farm. What did Mr. Brown hear this morning?
I've got a sound bite on him where he actually sat there at the table at breakfast and they heard a big boom. It sounded like a sonic boom. And he and his wife said, that's not supposed to be. They turned on the TV and found out that it was happening right here in their own backyard.
Ron, this debris field is at least going to be 100 miles or better.
At least.
Yeah, they're setting up command posts. I don't know if you've been able to make it by the command post yet or not.
And, you know, Tracy...
No, sir. My next step is to meet Charles' live truck down at 287 and 19 so they can have this video for you to use shortly.
Well, Mr. Whitting, we'll let you be on your way. Thank you very much for doing that for us. And, Tracy, you were talking about this debris field and the length of this debris field. NASA does have a contingency plan in place, of course, in the event of a disaster, but it does make you wonder how you can prepare for something of this magnitude. I imagine, you know, they've alerted, as we know, the different police agencies, the fire agencies in the local areas, but it has got to be almost an impossibly difficult situation to control.
I'm sure that it is, and they try very hard, I think, to... NASA at least comes in and tries to... I have some friends who work at NASA, and they do try to come in and take charge of the scene, as you can imagine, and they do that usually with federal help, the FBI and others. But all of these places, we're talking to our friends over at Fort Hood this morning, and the colonel there telling us that they've also been placed on alert. So there are a lot of other, if you will, federal agencies, and the Army would certainly be that, that could be pressed into service, and they will simply cordon these areas off, and they will take a look at each and every small piece. Now, Ron was telling us a moment ago that one of these is about the size of a coffee cup. Well, they'll pick up pieces smaller than that.
Right.
And try to put it all back into some kind of shape. They'll try to determine that way what happened in this thing.
And, you know, as I was driving into work this morning, just looking at the litter on the side of the road anyway, this is going to be an incredibly difficult task for them to determine what is shuttle-related and what happened to fall off a truck that had driven by 2 weeks earlier. I mean, this is going to be a very, very difficult task for them. I'm
going to lean on our friends, Neil and Mike, one more time in the weather department. They have been looking at the pattern that this debris, that we know of at least, has taken. Now, it's probably even reached out even farther. But let's once again take a look at this sweep. And Neil, if you will, let's call you in and you can tell us what we're seeing.
Once again, we came in a couple of hours ago and started taking a look at the radar, and pretty much you are seeing it, the debris field, and this pretty much coincides with the reports that we're getting this morning from law enforcement agencies, those that have been confirmed and those unconfirmed. Pretty much you see here's Athens and the Henderson County area, and you can see this little streak of blue right through here, which is a debris field across the heart of East Texas. This morning we are reporting that some debris has been found around downtown Nacogdoches, around the Commercial National Bank area. It also stretches through the San Augustine area. Just in case you're not very familiar with this part of the country, here's Lake Sam Rayburn, here's Toledo Bend Reservoir, here's the Sabine River area, here's Mansfield, Louisiana, and Leesville, Louisiana. So this morning we are getting a lot of reports of people who got up early this morning taking a look at East Texas, or those who live in western Louisiana, seeing our fireball, seeing something in the sky, and basically seeing some debris. So once again, as I loop this on the radar, in fact, we have some video right there. Tracy, I'm going to let you narrate this video.
Well, this is out around the Palestine area. We understand now from a number of people who are calling us in that this was a debris patch, excuse me, and this stuff comes down extremely hot, touched off this fire, and this area now is just all cordoned off. They're trying to, in fact, even keep helicopters and all other aircraft out of the area. Now, this is such a wide area, we're wondering at this point whether this would have any kind of effect on flights out of any of the airports in the area. We don't know that, but if they're going to try to cordon off the airspace, as you can see from the sweep here, that's a rather long area. If they have to go around that, could begin to delay some flights.
Tracy, we're joined now by Sheriff John Hobson of Anderson County, right there in the Palestine area. Sheriff?
Good morning.
Is this, we're looking at pictures right now of appears to be a fire in a field. Can you confirm for us that this is debris?
I can't see exactly what you're looking at right now, but I do know that we have had a few small fires, but nothing that wasn't containable. And we did have a couple of fires called in, but no debris associated with those small fires.
We know that a command post has been set up in the Palestine area, Sheriff. Perhaps you can tell us the area that command post would be responsible for.
Well, we're a county of about 1,200 square miles east of Interstate 45, and we're tracking a debris field from basically northwest part of the county all the way across toward a southeast trajectory.
So then it would overlap with the command post that'll be set up in the Nacogdoches area.
We'll be working with the command post in Nacogdoches, yes. And I've talked to NASA, and I understand that that's where they're sending one of their helicopters right now.
Okay. Sheriff, if you will, just tell us what NASA told you, how they're coming into the area, if they already are in control of all of these sites.
Well, as we speak, we're still trying to document all the calls that are coming into our office where the debris is located in the county. And in talking with NASA, they've told us to stay away from it, don't touch it. If someone has touched it, we'll send them to the local emergency rooms. And we're trying to document it for NASA, and they'll hopefully be here later on in the day or as quick as they can.
So, Sheriff, that does bring up an interesting point or an interesting question. Have you heard any reports of people touching this debris not knowing what it was?
Yes, I have, and we have a couple of people here in the county. We have told them to go to the emergency room, and we're trying to get it out over our emergency communications center that if in fact people have touched it or in some way come in contact with it, to go to the emergency room and treat it and to be treated and looked at.
But just again, you haven't heard of anyone being hurt so far?
No one hurt, but I have heard of people actually touching the debris, so we are referred them to the emergency rooms.
Okay, Sheriff John Hobson, we appreciate it. I know you're very busy over there this morning. How many people, can you tell me how many people you have actually working out of that command center? How many people have dispersed across the area to try to protect these sites?
I have right now probably in excess of 150 to 200 people here within the county through emergency management and volunteer fire departments and different law enforcement agencies as well as the state. We have folks from the governor's office here. Cliff Johnson's here from the governor's office, and Todd Staples, the state senator, is here. And we're just inundated, as you can imagine, with calls and just trying to work through it the best we can. But we're getting a lot of assistance from the governor's office and from the state and federal authorities, and we appreciate everything that they're doing.
And we appreciate you, and we thank you for taking the time out of a very busy morning to talk with us. We appreciate it, Sheriff.
You guys have a good day.
Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.
And right now we want to go to Washington, D.C., and the CBS News correspondent Elaine Quijano joins us now. Elaine, what word are you hearing out of Washington?
Good afternoon. Well, what we are hearing, good afternoon to you, Tracy or Karen. President Bush is headed back at this hour to the White House from Camp David, where he cut his weekend short. Camp David, of course, being the presidential retreat. The president wanted to come back here so that he could better monitor the situation and be close to his advisors who are now huddling in the White House Situation Room. As I said, the president is due to arrive at the White House at any moment. The flag behind me on the White House is now at half-mast. President Bush, his advisors, and especially folks at the Department of Homeland Security, very quick to put out the information that they have no indication at this point that this shuttle accident was caused by a terrorist act. They want to be very clear on that right now. Now, why do they believe that? They say it's because of the space shuttle's high altitude, something like 200,000 feet up when this incident occurred. Whatever it was, they say because of that, it is highly unlikely, that's the phrase that they've been using, highly unlikely that this was caused by a terrorist act. That is the information that we are hearing now, and the president making his way over to the White House as we speak. Tracy and Karen.
We're just curious. I don't know. I hate to throw you curves like this, but have you been able to get any kind of, excuse me, NASA reports there in Washington? How NASA is dealing with this, Elaine?
Well, you know, it's tough because we're trying to monitor various sources of information. As you know, that briefing by NASA is scheduled to happen here a short time from now. And the information that we're hearing is much the same that you are hearing there. And what we've been trying to do really is find out what the status of the president is, when he will be arriving at the White House, when there might be any kind of word of a press briefing. At this point, we have not heard that the White House plans any kind of official briefing. That certainly could change, especially once NASA gives their news conference. And as has happened in past incidents, the White House obviously wanting to take every precaution and make sure that they don't unnecessarily alarm people. They want to get their hands on as much information as possible, including, one would imagine, what comes out of this NASA press conference before they go ahead and make any kind of statement to the public. Tracy and Karen.
And Elaine, we missed what you were saying. We had expected there to possibly be a NASA press conference about an hour ago. Do you have an updated time?
What we're hearing is probably about 40 minutes or so, about 1 o'clock Eastern, 12 Central is what we are hearing for a NASA news conference out of Florida, the Kennedy Space Center there. And one would imagine, of course, the White House going to be monitoring that very closely and perhaps their own briefing, although we should note that right now we don't have any kind of official word that they're going to be having a briefing. But as I was trying to say before, essentially, as is customary, White House officials wanting to gather as much information as they can in a developing situation like this before they come out and make any kind of public statement. Again, the word that we're hearing out of Florida is that at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 Central, there will be, or there's scheduled to be, a briefing by NASA officials there. Tracy and Karen.
Okay, Elaine, very informative. We appreciate it very much. Elaine Keano talking with us this morning from Washington, D.C., where she's been monitoring the situation. The president expected to make a statement, and as Elaine was just pointing out to us, maybe in about 40 minutes, NASA will have a news conference and will talk with us about these things. Peggy Pico, our health reporter, medical reporter, is also on the telephone. Or now, Peggy is live with us this morning from our Dallas newsroom. And Peggy, if you will, talk to us about what was on board this flight and the other things that you've checked into.
Okay, Tracy, well, I just talked to Dr. Ahmed Idris. He is NASA's human spaceflight rescue team. The shift focused almost immediately after he got word from rescuing those on board to the fuel fallout that could potentially pose an environmental danger. However, what he told me was this: there was a small amount of toxic fuel on board. That toxic fuel burns up upon re-entry. Specifically, the fuel is nitrogen trioxide and hydrazine. Now, what you need to know about that toxic fuel is this: it can remain after a fire and become oily residual on debris. That is the concern with NASA right now. Here's what he has to say about it.
Although there's an extremely low danger, I think, of a toxic exposure, it's still remotely possible that some fuel could remain in a tank that hadn't ruptured or burnt up. And so I think NASA is really just warning people of the remote possibility, and they prefer them not to handle any of that, as well as the fact that there's probably going to be a very in-depth analysis of exactly what happened, and I'm sure that every piece of the space shuttle that can be found will be analyzed very carefully to try to prevent something like this from happening in the future. And so we don't want anyone touching any of those pieces and altering the site.
Now, we have had reports that people have picked up debris just out of curiosity. The concern is about the oily residual that's left on there. If you have touched debris, it is recommended that you go to the emergency room, get that checked out. But again, because of forensics, they want to find out what happened. They're going to test every single bit of debris. Besides your own safety, NASA is requesting that if you think you have found a piece of debris, please do not pick it up. Please do not touch it. Despite the heat factor that it could still be burning, because as you know, Tracy, oil can burn for a long, long time once the fire is out.
Yeah, there are all sorts of things that actually coat these materials too. So we appreciate it, Peggy. Thank you very much for sharing with us this morning all of that very good information that Peggy was able to pick up.
Elaine Quijano mentioned that at the White House, the flag at the White House is flying at half staff. NASA has not come out and declared this declared the astronauts gone, but one U.S. official speaking on the condition of anonymity has said they're gone, and this is definitely a national tragedy.
NASA Administrator Sean O'Keefe will have a press briefing from the Kennedy Space Center. That'll be coming up at noon Central Time, so in a little over 30 minutes. I want to call in Mike Berger, and Mike, you were there when the shuttle Challenger went down. Talk to us about that. I know you've talked to some friends there this morning, too.
Yeah, I actually, Tracy, when I worked in Florida, I started covering the first shuttle flight and then covered them all up through Challenger. And I was standing in my backyard the morning that Challenger went up and exploded. Interestingly enough, what some people may not know, the two booster rockets, the solid fuel booster rockets, once they're lit on takeoff, and if you'll remember the Challenger lifting off, once those boosters are lit, they cannot be shut off. So that's why they continue to fly, and that's always been a concern of liftoff down at the Space Center. I did talk to a friend of mine this morning who lives in Titusville. I know a number of people who work at KSC. Of course, because of the Israeli colonel flying on this mission, there was extra security. But even after 9/11, KSC had automatic weapons, machine guns, and overflights by Air Force pilots and planes to assure that there would be no terrorist attacks on it. The coverage was a little more extensive at this liftoff, but once the shuttle was lifted off, then there really wasn't any concern until it came back, because there's, at 200,000 feet, I don't know of any missile, maybe you do, that could shoot the shuttle down at that height. NASA's main concern is once it gets below 50,000 feet, but then it is over Florida and it's making its final turns. Now, some people said they heard an explosion this morning or a boom. When you get the shuttle getting low enough into the atmosphere, what you actually hear is a twin sonic boom. They're very close together. They go boom, boom. And then the shuttle has come through the speed of sound, or the sound barrier, and it's starting to slow down. So the people may have heard that, or they possibly could have heard the explosion, indeed, of the shuttle as it was going across north central Texas.
Mike, this video that we're looking at right now, this was taken over Lafayette, Louisiana, I believe by a meteorologist there who happened to be taping this. He was expecting the shuttle to come into the area, and this is what he saw when he brought out his camera.
See, what normally happens, everything that flies, every airplane, the shuttle, everything has a flight axis, as you're probably aware, and that axis is the center of the vehicle. And if there was anything that created a yaw in that space shuttle, it would create tremendous pressure on one side, and it would be very hard to control, and there's a possibility that that may have contributed to some sort of explosion. As you've said before, there is some residual toxic fuel left, and that's why nobody should touch it, because it is dangerous. And so just be very, very careful. We can't stress that enough. You see something, by all means, just call your local police agencies and let them come out and take it.
Yeah, this is no time to be out there trying to collect souvenirs, folks. Just stay away from these areas, and you can get yourself into some big trouble anyway, because NASA, excuse me, will be trying to collect all of these pieces, the tiniest piece, Mike, and they'll try to reassemble to find out what happened here.
Well, what's amazing about that, Tracy, when Challenger blew up, all the debris was out over the ocean, and it was amazing the amount of debris they found to piece the Challenger back together and determine exactly what happened. There was also, I have it on pretty good authority, that part of the crew quarters was found in the ocean and brought back in, and now all of those pieces have been dropped down into a old missile silo at KSC. But I just can't imagine. This friend of mine's son has worked on the Columbia since its inception, and there's a tight lockdown now at KSC, and everybody down there is devastated because it was just, what, 3 days ago, 17, 18 years ago, that Challenger indeed blew up. So this is something they never wanted to see again. I never thought I'd see something like this again.
You know, for the people who haven't seen one of these shuttles up close, Mike, it really is kind of an awe-inspiring thing to walk up next to one of them. You don't realize just how very, very large, and frankly, how they look almost cumbersome when you see them on the ground or in the hangars.
Oh, exactly. It looks like a brick. It's very stubby, and I've been fortunate enough to be inside the shuttle, and if some of you have been down to KSC and have taken the tours down there, they now do have a mock-up of one of the shuttles there that you can actually go inside and see what it's like. It's a fantastic piece of equipment, and there's literally millions of pieces that have gone into manufacturing this thing, and quite honestly, I've had engineers just tell me they just shake their head every time it flies because there's so many potential problems, and they continue to fly, and they've had, I think, 88 successful missions since Challenger blew up.
And you don't realize about, do you remember, in fact it was probably around the time of the Challenger tragedy or shortly after that time, they were taking a look at all of the shuttles at that time. And I mean, if these things even had any kind of a slight tear, if you will, off of some of those heat shields, that thing was not going to go up. I mean, they were just extremely cautious. And I don't know if we've lost some of that over the years, Mike. These things have become so routine, but I know there was some difficulty with this flight when it first took off.
Well, the one thing I can say about that, Tracy, I know a number of people, again, who work at KSC. Some of them work in the logistical department, and logistics is responsible for all materials that go into the shuttles, or for that matter, any launches at KSC. And one of the problems that some of them have told me, and again, they don't want their names used, but they say that because of budget cutbacks and things, they have actually cannibalized parts from other shuttles to put on shuttles so they can fly.
Yeah, we have heard that as well. Thank you, Mike Berger. We'll be checking back both with Mike and with Neil, and both of them putting in just great yeoman service for us this morning. And Mike spent so much time down in Florida, as did you. I know you
I was there
worked
for 3
in
years.
Florida. Yeah, worked in Florida as well.
And every shuttle launch, because of the Challenger disaster, was covered from start to finish.
Absolutely.
And because of the importance of it, especially in that area, we really, we watched every landing, every takeoff, and it was just something that was very, very important to the folks in that area. Betty Wynn joins us now. She is in Arlington. And Betty, we understand that there might be some debris at that house. Tell us
Karen, the
about
audio is coming in and out, but I will tell you that we are in the 2500 block of Monterey here in Arlington, where a piece of debris has been spotted in the yard here. Now, it's just really one item, and it's kind of hard to tell exactly what it is. If we can zoom in on it, and we also have some video that we want to show you. Now, this is a white, purplish looking object. It's still, again, not known what this is, but some people kind of compare it to a candle and say it also has somewhat of a waxy texture. But just for safety purposes, we have been told by the FBI that there has been a similar object found in Rockwall. So because there is somewhat of a connection there, they want to secure this scene and make sure that authorities can get here in time to check out this object and find out exactly what it is. But again, there have been pieces of this in the roadways. I don't know if we can zoom out to see some of that, but there are some waxy residue substances on the roadway throughout this street. And also, we did talk to the homeowner who said that earlier this morning he was in the house and he heard a boom, felt the house shook, and really didn't think much of it until he turned on the television and saw what had happened after that. But then he went out to grab the paper, and that is when he saw this object. So let's listen to what he had to say. His name is James Adams.
Well, we heard something like something hitting the house. Sounded like something hit the roof. And I wasn't sure what it was, so I got up to see about my father, who was staying with us, and he was up, and he was okay. I thought he might have fallen, and then I didn't think any more about it until after we got up and turned the TV on, and they were talking about the space shuttle breaking up. And I came out to get the newspaper, and this was laying in the yard, and didn't know what it was, so I said, well, we better call 911 and let them come check it and see. And so we've had fire trucks and the DPS and Arlington police all out here.
That's right, the fire department has been out here today, and we understand that they checked the object, still don't know exactly what it is, so that's why they called it in, and the FBI is on the way. Don't know exactly when they will get here, but this object will be tested later today, and we'll determine exactly what it is, if it is indeed something that may have fallen off the space shuttle. Back to you, Karen and Tracy.
All right, now, Betty, we saw that the Arlington police officer has cordoned off the area. Have they been in touch, or have you seen any federal officers, anything like that?
The FBI is not here just yet, but we do understand DPS has been here, and the Arlington Fire Department has been here checking out the object in the yard. And again, it's just one piece, and it does look like a whitish candle with a purple colored center in the middle of it. And again, on the streets around this area, we're seeing little pieces of what appears to be a waxy substance. So we don't know exactly what it is, but they are comparing it to something that may be similar to a candle.
Okay, Betty Wynn reporting from Arlington. You can imagine from Arlington all the way back over to Nacogdoches, this is a really very large field. And
given the size of the craft, as you and Mike were talking about, I mean, this is a massive piece of equipment.
Oh, yeah, and it just, I mean, we're going to be, there are pieces of it out there that of course, haven't been spotted yet,
Right.
too. And again, we caution you folks, please don't try to pick any of this stuff up. Again, this is some of the video that we have. We have from a couple of photographers who were watching this as it was coming in. One locally in Fort Worth, at the edge of Fort Worth, and then the other from Louisiana over at Shreveport, I understand, a meteorologist shooting video.
And now, Tracy, talk to us a little bit about the Israeli reaction. You had just spent a good week there, just returned earlier last week.
Yeah, we had actually, we were over there during the time of the launch, and all of the television and radio stations carried interviews, profiles of the colonel. They were talking as though it were truly a new era. All of the newspapers carried, and this is really strange at this time, if you consider the tragedy and the violence that's been taking place in that part of the world, all of that violence being replaced with these positive headlines about the colonel going up and being the first Israeli astronaut to fly. So this,
it was like finally some good news for them.
Exactly. I mean, this was a breakthrough in terms of just having something positive to talk about in their newspapers, and it was a sort of a unifying thing over there, too. But also, that's why there were so many people who were paying attention to this particular flight, because there was always this great concern. And you know that NASA and others took some great precautions with this flight, which is another very interesting thing about it. I mean, how it was that on this flight, with all of the security that surrounded it and all of the safety precautions that were taken, it would be this flight of all flights that would end in tragedy. Colonel Ramon, 48 years old, a colonel in Israel's Air Force, a former fighter pilot. He'd survived 2 of Israel's wars and became the first man from his country to fly on any space mission. His presence resulted in an increase in security, not only for Columbia's launch, but also for its planned landing. And space agency officials had feared that his presence might make the shuttle more of a terrorist target. But again, today the government's saying repeatedly there's no evidence that this in any way involved any terrorist organization.
Now, I know that NASA was concerned, and you and Mike touched on this a few minutes ago, upon liftoff, that something might have happened, that a piece of the rocket booster, I believe it was, fell off and hit part of the left wing, I believe it was, of the Columbia. And you know, in doing so, if it in any way damaged one of those ceramic tiles that acts as a heat shield, they had to have known that upon reentry, it could have been dangerous.
They did not consider it to be a big deal. When the thing took off and they had this problem, they said, no, this is not important. It is not important. Now, whether it has ultimately some bearing on today's tragedy, of course, is still to be seen as they begin to put these things together. We have on the telephone with us Judge McKinney now from Anderson County, the Palestine area. Judge, thank you for joining us. What can you tell us? How are things progressing now in your county?
Well, our emergency responders are doing a really good job of trying to take and secure all the scenes where we're having debris reported right now. Department of Public Safety and the Sheriff's Department and our volunteer fire departments are all working together to try to take and make sure that those scenes are secured for the investigating agencies that'll be in here shortly.
Yeah, well, can you tell us how many incidents of debris do you have in your county now? Has there been any kind of account that's been run on this?
A total, not yet. There's just been the Sheriff's Department's been flooded with calls. We got some of those calls into my office, and I even got some at home that debris was just pretty well scattered from south to northeast Anderson County.
Now, Judge, the sheriff was telling us a little earlier that he has been in contact with NASA officials. Are they on the scene yet?
Not to my knowledge. You know, they may be, but I know they were en route. And I'm at a different location from the Sheriff's Department. We were trying to set up a place for the media out here at the Civic Center to gather and have a room to gather in.
He was saying, the sheriff was also saying that people had picked up, they knew that there had been some incidents where people had picked up some of the pieces, and they were telling them, first of all, as we've been saying all morning long, please don't do that, but secondly, that they're You're setting up some emergency facilities. If anybody was hurt, to come in, report, or call in, and you'll make sure that there are people who get out and help them, right?
Yes, sir, and they should probably report to the hospital. We have contacted the hospital and advised them that they may have individuals that have touched the materials or something to show up there at the emergency room.
Have you been in contact at all, Judge, with your partners over around the Nacogdoches area?
Did I lose you?
Well, it sounds like we have faded out there. It may have been on a cell phone. I'm not sure.
The phone clicked. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, we've lost him, but we appreciate Judge McKinney from Anderson County, the Palestine area, talking to us.
And we have pictures again of this debris that Betty Wynn was reporting from a house in Arlington in the 2500 block of Monterey. They found what appears to be a little piece of the shuttle with the consistency of candle wax, a white purplish hue, and she said that they also found something similar to this in the Rockwall area. So officials are very interested in this piece of what appears to be debris. They've cordoned off the yard in that at that home and keeping people away.
You know, we were talking about what was happening in Israel with the colonel there, but also front pages of Indian newspapers today were carrying pictures of Kalpana Chawla. She's the young woman who graduated from University of Texas at Arlington, virtually a local person, the first Indian-born woman in space to celebrate her expected return then to Earth on the Space Shuttle Columbia. These newspapers were out there all over India today celebrating her. And the irony is, of course, that she didn't make it. The return never happened after the Space Shuttle Columbia broke apart at about 203,000 feet over North Texas, minutes before it was to land then in Florida. And the scientific secretary of the Indian Space Research Organization said, quote, "What can anyone say except that we are aghast at this terrible tragedy."
Chawla earned her master's degree in aerospace engineering at UTA in 1984. She boarded the shuttle as a mission specialist, a scientist who was trained to perform experiments in space. And this was her second flight.
Just terribly excited about all of this stuff. Don't you know that these folks, to get to this point of being astronauts, have been dedicated virtually all of their lives to the kinds of training that ultimately they were able to get? I know that all of us here in the news business have been fortunate enough to meet some of the astronauts, and without exception, these are just remarkable men and women who are impressive to talk to them. They're folks who are scientists, and at the same time, they have a real sense of adventure. They're just the frontiersmen of our age, and to think that we've lost 7 of them this way is just a tragedy that is just truly beyond description right now.
You know, and as you mentioned, these flights had become so routine for so many people. We don't look at it with the excitement. I say we, the collective we, meaning many Americans don't look at it with a sense of excitement that these people certainly did. But when you think about it, when you take a step back and you look, you realize this really is an amazing thing that they're doing. And all of the things that they are learning from that time in space, the week or so that they spend in space.
Yeah, they're doing different experiments every time they go up, and this, of course, is all leading to a time when we'll not only have a space station, but perhaps even be able to use that space station to launch trips further into space. And with all of the negative things happening on Earth, for a lot of folks, this has been just a tremendous boost always, and people who follow what's been happening at NASA have said for quite a while that this is the one thing that we can share with all of our partners around the world. And NASA has, of course, on many missions taken up other folks, Russians and other people from different countries who have been participants in the NASA program. It is, in other words, it's something that is a true common denominator that we all share with humankind around the globe. And there aren't just many things out there that we share in this way.
And I know the folks at Mission Control are literally just stunned this morning. We understand that it's not atypical to lose contact with a shuttle upon re-entry, but when that loss of contact stretched out, they all just stared at their screens, just in disbelief at what they were seeing and knowing what probably had happened.
Bits of machinery, other metal debris found strewn across the city of Nacogdoches this morning, hours after the Shuttle Columbia broke apart. It's all over Nacogdoches, and it's all over the Palestine area, too. There are several little pieces. We've been talking about this too. Some parts of machinery, parts perhaps of the heat shield, parts that have been unidentified, different colors of pieces as they're coming down, some having a sort of glassy texture and look, other parts being obviously very metallic. NASA lost contact with the spaceship while it was at an altitude of about 40 miles and traveling at 6 times the speed of sound.
That's right, and you mentioned, Tracy, that there's debris all over Palestine. One dentist, I understand, said he found a chunk of debris inside his office. It came through the roof of the office. We've seen fields on fire in Palestine, and this is going to stretch out quite a ways, again, because of the speed of the spacecraft at the time. It's 6 times the speed of sound, and again, as you mentioned, the altitude, 40 miles.
As you can see from the graphic we have up on your screen, President Bush will address the nation. The Shuttle Columbia did explode over North Texas this morning. At Kennedy Space Center, we're expecting a press briefing in about a little over 15 minutes at noon our time, and it's 11:48, almost 11:49 right now. At the Kennedy Space Center, the flag next to the countdown clock has been lowered to half staff. NASA officials have been very reluctant to confirm that the crew was dead, but there have been other NASA officials who have said privately, yes, they are gone. And of course, they have also confirmed that the shuttle itself is gone. They've tried to dispatch as many teams as possible into North Texas to try to begin to piece this whole thing together.
And we are going to go back now to meteorologist Neil Barton in our storm center. Neil,
once again, folks, just in case you're just joining us again, taking a look at our radar this morning, you can see this trail, this debris field across East Texas on toward western Louisiana. This is just in case you're getting up and getting going and tuning in. This very late Saturday morning, looking at the radar, you can see this little trail you see right through here. We're already getting phone calls from other CBS affiliates across the country trying to tap into our radar. You can see it right through here. Meteorologist Mike Berger has more to add on that. Mike?
Yeah, Neil, basically what we're looking at here, and Tracy and Karen have certainly talked about the pieces that people are finding, and I think just to reiterate what they've said, it's very important to understand that most of these pieces are going to be very, very small. I did hear one report of a gentleman down near Rusk who said he thought he found a tile off the shuttle, and I'll just give you a clue on that, and Tracy, you've probably handled these tiles as well. They're very light, and they're kind of a graphite color, and they do have a number of numbers on them because each tile is individually cut and set for its particular part of the shuttle. So if you find something like that, that's probably what that's going to be. But what we're seeing here, as Neil is showing you now, is probably suspended gases, probably some water out of the space shuttle, and things that are actually suspendable in air because it's very light, because the heavy piece obviously have come to the ground.
As Mike, as you said before, and Tracy and Karen, this is not a family event. A few moments ago, we had pictures from our helicopter and around the Palestine area, people out surrounding a fire, the family dog running around. Get away from any sort of debris. The propellants used in the space shuttle are very, very dangerous. They're hazardous. So get away and contact your law enforcement officials.
Yeah, we've mentioned that even after the fire is out, the toxins remain.
We're going to go to Michael Hill in just a moment, but back to Mike Berger. Mike, you were talking, and I think it's very important about these tiles. I tried to use the analogy of an armadillo, but it truly is that kind of armor plating that this thing is covered with because it's so remarkably hot as the thing is getting back into the atmosphere.
Yeah, exactly, Tracy. If you get a good picture of the shuttle, or if you have a picture of the shuttle, everything that you see that is black in color on the shuttle is a tile covering that surface. You'll see it on the nose of the shuttle, you'll see it on the complete underbelly of the shuttle, and also along the leading edge of the wings, which is actually a carbon. It's very, very hot. It's very heat resistant. Right. And as you said earlier, I was listening to you, that something supposedly fell off the exterior tank when the shuttle was taking off. Now, if that were the case, and when they got into orbit, they were able to see on cameras if that had really done any damage. But if they couldn't see a little crack or something like that coming down at this speed, at that intense heat, it's about 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit, who knows if that crack could have made all the difference in the world on the leading edge of a wing. It'll take months to figure it out.
We appreciate your expertise, Mike. Thank you very much. Michael Hill is standing by now, and we have been showing video this morning taken from by an amateur. Well, I guess he's a professional, considering
that's
the
right.
fact. We'd originally call it amateur photography. Michael, talk to us about what you have here.
Yes, Tracy, those pictures come from Raymond Cervantes. He's the production director for the Hispanic Broadcasting Corporation, some 4 radio stations here in Dallas-Fort Worth. He stepped outside his house in Fort Worth this morning and took pictures with his Canon digital camera, and here's what he saw, and here's what he describes. Take us back to the moment you were looking through the viewfinder of your camera, and describe what you were seeing and what you were feeling and what you were thinking.
Well, I stepped outside, and the express intent to videotape the shuttle as it comes over, as usually does. Usually looking to the west and notice the shuttle as it comes in. It starts as a bright star, and then it flares up, and then you'll notice the plasma trail, the distinct plasma trail that lasts for a couple of minutes in the atmosphere as it's coming in. It's doing about 17,000 miles an hour at 200,000 feet. So it is going pretty quickly. It will transverse from the west to the east within about 20 seconds. And once it leaves our area, our viewing area, in about 7 minutes later, it's landed in Florida. So it's quite a quick ride.
And describe what you saw this morning. The moment you noticed something was unusual.
I noticed something unusual. My wife told me that looks like there was something flying next to the shuttle. And then I expressed to her that it might just be a tile or a piece of ice that might just come off of the shuttle. And then I did notice that there was a couple other pieces coming off. And on the video, you can see where it looks like there's 4 or 5, and then all of a sudden a plume, just like maybe a big puff, and then more pieces are starting to come off. So that could be the point where the actual explosion took place over North Texas.
At what point did you realize that there was something very unusual, that there was something wrong?
I did notice something unusual than any other reentry. Usually about 7 to 8 minutes later, you can hear a double sonic boom way off in the distance. But this one happened too quickly. It happened about 5 minutes after the shuttle passed over, and it shook the house. It rattled the glass. It sounded like a big explosion. I live next to Bell Helicopter in Hurst, and you usually get helicopters and trucks that go by that are pretty loud, and they rattle the house a little bit. But this was a distinct boom. It did rattle the house, and I just wondered what it was. I turned the TV on, and I did notice that something had tragically happened to the shuttle.
And at what point, what did you say to yourself as you're watching this? What were you thinking?
Well, I'm thinking maybe that is something like a tile or some pieces of debris that might have come off, but this is routine. You know, the shuttle comes in, it's protected by its heat tiles, it's been tested, but this is the oldest shuttle in the fleet. It is 16 years old. It's had maybe 32 flights on her. And it has been retrofitted about 2 years ago with a glass cockpit. It's up to standards now in today's technology. But what we saw today is very tragic.
Now, Cervantes, as we were saying, is a production director for the Hispanic Broadcasting Corporation. He says he's taking pictures of the Mir spacecraft and the shuttle Discovery re-entering orbit, but he said this third time with the Columbia shuttle here was very tragic, as you heard him just say. He's going to turn to the camera now, turn to the screen, and describe exactly what he's seeing and what he's taking pictures of. This is something falling off the shuttle there. We're seeing there. It's small pieces to the right.
Right. You'll see.
What are those?
You'll see, I believe, 1 or 2 of these could be a tile as it's coming in, and right there you'll see a tile come off. But then you'll notice as the video plays, you'll see a brighter plume, which happens right there, and that could be something like pressurized tanks maybe blowing up, or something like something catastrophic.
At what point did you realize there was something wrong with this, that this was unusual, that this was...
Well, I went back into the house thinking that everything's okay. I looked at the NASA Select channel, and they did state that they had lost contact with the shuttle. And at that point, I knew something was wrong. And then at that moment, about a minute later, I did hear that big, loud bang.
That kind of confirmed.
And it was a loud boom that I've never experienced before. I've heard sonic booms in the past, but this was something that was unbelievable.
What do you think the boom was, the explosion?
It could have been the explosion. It is traveling at 17,000 miles an hour. I think that's probably 20 times the speed of sound. Anything like that entering the atmosphere is going to cause some loud kind of boom explosion.
Raymond Cervantes there, one of thousands of North Texans watching the Space Shuttle Columbia re-entry orbit here over Texas early this morning, and watching not with just 2 eyes, but with 3 eyes, his Canon digital camera.
Tracy, Karen, back to you.
Okay, Mike, thank you very much.
And we understand we have some more debris video from Lufkin this time.
Yeah, new video that we've just gotten in here, and again, you got to understand how big this debris path is from Arlington all the way back over to far East Texas and Nacogdoches.
This appears to be a very big piece, Tracy. You might be able to speak more of this, but it looks like a giant piece of aluminum, actually a few pieces there, and you see members of what maybe the National Guard, I believe I heard was called out in that area.
This thing looks almost embedded in the ground too, Karen. It could have come down with quite a bit of force. Mike, you recognize any of that stuff as you're looking at it? Just feel free to pop in.
Okay, no, I don't, Tracy, but probably what has happened there, and it would be hard to recognize until the engineers at NASA put it together. It's probably twisted. It could be damaged or the shape changed because of an explosion. Important to remember here, too, when we were looking at that video, if you'll remember, we kind of saw that puff of smoke, and then the shuttle seemed to go a little bit further, and then all of a sudden you started to see the pieces come off, and that may have been the point of explosion if, and this is strictly just a wild guess here, but if some of those tiles came off, that skin of the shuttle is basically aluminum, and at 3,000 degrees, it takes a matter of seconds to burn a hole into that.
Well,
and
and the life support systems. I mean, you're talking about cryogenics that can be terribly volatile if exposed.
Exactly. Liquid oxygen, they have that on board, and if you mix that with air or some other chemicals, it can just explode in a second.
Well, NASA will try to put all this back together. If you heard Mike just a few minutes ago remind us of the fact that these the tile are almost like painting by numbers. They put these things on. They're not all the same shape either, Mike.
No, not all the same shape, not all the same thickness.
That's right.
It just depends on where that shuttle's going to be and what heat is going to hit it. And it's, all of us, most of us been in an airplane, when you start coming down, you feel the pressure because the air is holding that plane up underneath it. Well, imagine where the heat is hitting that, and that's where the thickest tiles will be.
Yeah, and it isn't unusual for them to lose a few tiles on reentry.
No, sure isn't. As a matter of fact, one of the first things they do when the shuttle lands is to go and check out those tiles because, as you said, Tracy, each one of them is a singular piece.
Right.
So they have to go back and they have to make sure they have it or they have to manufacture that piece.
In fact, they even went back, they re-engineered this thing and put some more heat tiles on them because they were losing more than they thought they should be losing in the earlier flights in this program. They've done all kinds of due diligence on this thing.
They sure have, and the whole thing started, of course, when Challenger blew up because of the O-ring. It was an extremely cold morning, and as it took off, I was watching it as it was lifting off because I lived in Orlando at the time, so you watched the first 5 seconds on TV, then you walked outside and you could see it, even though it was 50 miles away. And you could see the burn hole being created as Challenger lifted off, and it was like, oh, and unfortunately that happened. So
let me just interrupt here because we are expecting a statement from Sean O'Keefe, NASA administrator, at any second now. So if I interrupt you as we're discussing about, talking about all this, you'll know why that is. We're going to go there immediately, of course, as soon as that signal comes out.
That's right. Now, Mike Berger does have extensive knowledge about NASA. You did live in that area, and you covered the NASA program while you were there. Now, I know that after the Challenger disaster, they went to great lengths to find a way, because as many people aren't aware, the Challenger shuttle itself did not explode. They found a great portion of it intact in the ocean, and they tried to make an escape area for...
Well, yeah, the shuttle, the crew quarters, if you will, or the cockpit, is actually connected in 4 places. And there's been talk from time to time about making that so if something were to happen, it would be ejected forward and act as kind of a cocoon to drop the crew. That has never been done now, and I don't know why. It may not be practical or whatever the case, but there was some talk, and again, strictly talk, that when the Challenger exploded, that they did find some of the crew in the cockpit in the ocean.
I remember I was there, and there was some... It was sort of a macabre discovery that a lot of people, frankly, just didn't want to talk about at the time.
Well, that's exactly right, Tracy. And something else to remember Let's go back to that time, because you remember how extensive NASA and the government, all the hearings, all the money that was spent, the entire report took a long, long time, and to this day, every once in a while, a piece of Challenger will wash up on the beach in Florida.
The other thing, too, that we have to be mindful of is that each time these happen, as you're mentioning, Mike, there will be this huge congressional inquiry into what happened and whether there was enough money that had been dedicated to the program, whether we need to devote more money, or whether there'll be those folks who'll stand up and say, no, let's just bring a halt to the whole thing so that we can see where we are.
Well, that's exactly true, and that brings up another point, Tracy. We have a huge space station with astronauts up there. Mm-hmm. How long is it going to be? How long can they stay there before we have to go and get them?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Right, because there is going to be a lot of concern about sending another shuttle into the ground.
Absolutely.
I mean, because it really will be. After the Challenger exploded, it was quite some time before they felt ready to send another shuttle into space.
Well, exactly, and they're going to have to be very, very careful of that, because they will ground all the shuttles now until they get something. So it's going to be a real concern about time, because those astronauts can't stay in the space station forever.
Well, there are so many countries that are involved. Russia is going to have to take another look at its program, the rebuilding of the space station and the whole thing. And you can say, gee, that is really too bad. This is some sort of probably explainable accident that's taken place here. Why does everything have to come to a halt? Well, it's for the very reason that it is an accident. That is to say that probably somebody made a mistake someplace. And it was, if you consider all the monitoring devices that are aboard the shuttle anyway, it'll tell you about any flaw in the skin. I mean, the thing is constantly reassessing its own flight capabilities. Why wasn't that brought to the crew's attention?
That's exactly right, and you know as well as I do, Tracy, that when it comes to launching the shuttle, if there is any glitch or anything that looks irregular on a computer program, it's, let's wait another day. They're just very, very cautious.
We're going to go back now to Neil Barton. You have something you want to share with us, Neil?
Just basically more in the safety realm. Once again, taking a look at our radar this morning, you can see the debris field right through here across East Texas. As Mike was saying a few moments ago, a lot of this particular matter, gases that are still suspended in the air across East Texas. But once we show you this little loop, I want to zoom out one more time and pretty much go back in time from this morning when we first had an idea that something was going wrong. This morning we have had reports, some confirmed, some not, of all sorts of debris from Dallas-Fort Worth down across most of East Texas on through western Louisiana. And as we have been saying all morning long, once again, if you're out in your yard, your field, your pasture, whatever, if you find something that does not look right, call the law enforcement officials. Do not surround it yourself. Do not pick it up. And again, just in case you're just joining us this morning, we're getting all sorts of reports, some confirmed, some not, around Dallas and Fort Worth of debris that is on the ground from here all the way through the Sam Rayburn area, Lufkin, Nacogdoches, back over through western Louisiana and the San Augustine area of Texas.
Mike?
Tracy, another thing that I want to bring up, and I don't know if you've heard this, but I have heard that the shuttle was supposed to be crossing from California, Arizona, El Paso, and then on into KSC. Now, if that's the case, it would have not come over the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So the question I would raise, if indeed that is the truth, did something happen prior to Dallas-Fort Worth that it threw it off course?
We're waiting for this statement from NASA that's going to be coming up. Maybe they'll shed a little light on that.
And from what I understand, and I'm not as knowledgeable about this as Mike is, the shuttle acts as a glider when it's coming back in. And is there little more they can do than just to steer it?
There's absolutely nothing they can do, and that's why when the shuttle comes into the atmosphere, it's all controlled by computers. And it's not until the very end that the pilot has control to land that thing, because he only has one chance. There's no fuel, there's no go around if he misses it, one time and one time only. So it's a very tricky situation.
We were talking a little bit earlier with photographer Ron Whitting, who's out in the Palestine area. He'd stopped off at a farmer's house to give us a call, and I understand Ron has some new information. Some folks who were injured out there. Is that correct, Ron?
That's correct, Tracy. There were some people that had touched the fuselages that have been found in various parts of the county. They have been taken to area hospitals to be checked out for radiation treatment. And, of course, the authorities have told them, please, if you do find these things in your backyard or in your pasture, call authorities and do not touch it because it is dangerous.
Now, what kind of injuries are we talking about here, Ron?
Basically, they're just checking them out because of radiation. They don't want to have any radiation exposure. Most of these places that they have found the debris, they're roping them off and not letting anybody in unless you're law enforcement or emergency personnel to check these to make sure that they're okay before anybody touches them with bare skin.
Ron, we just saw a picture come up of what was obviously a piece of debris, kind of a bluish color, and I think some video that you'd shot earlier. What did you see?
Yes, sir, that is the fuselage piece of the fuselage that was found in the median there on 155 about 8 miles north of Palestine, on 155 at the intersection of 321. And I was there just before authorities had gotten there. And a gentleman walked up to me and told me he had gotten there earlier and it was still smoking. Of course, when I got there, it already cooled off.
We're back on that picture right now. It's kind of bluish in color, but somebody has positively identified it as a part of the fuselage?
Yes, sir. That is what the authorities told me there at the scene.
And, Ron, I understand...
Because of the
Go ahead, Ron. But because of the markings on
because of the markings on the metal itself, that's why they feel like that it is a piece of the fuselage.
And you mentioned earlier that by the time, or when authorities did arrive, they asked you to stop taking pictures. Is that right?
That's correct. That's correct. They asked me not to take any pictures and to get back further because of the possible radiation. They didn't know if it was hazardous or not, and that's what they were trying to do, and plus trying to control traffic, and it got to be pretty chaos with all people trying to stop and look at everything.
I know you were hurrying to get back over to our live truck that we were sending out there to meet you, and obviously you made that connection. I don't know if you had an opportunity to see any of the other sites, Ron, or if you've heard anything that you can share with us about the number of sites and people are finding these pieces out there.
Well, so far, I've been listening to the authorities' radio here in this county, and they have found a couple other places that they have found the things in the pastures and what have you that I have not been to yet. There is one other place that I did look at. They would not let me take pictures of because it was that piece we talked about that was about as big as a piece of about the size of a coffee cup, and you couldn't positively identify it at all. But Mr. Brown and his wife were eating breakfast when this explosion happened, and it rocked their house, and they did not know what was going on until they turned on the TV.
This looks like a pretty good piece of that, pretty big piece of that fuselage. I mean, how big is that thing?
That thing looks, Tracy, it looks to be about the size of about 12 feet by about 15 feet. Wow. I'm just guessing, of course, but it's about 12 to 15 feet in diameter.
Is a part of it buried in the ground there? I mean, did it hit with that kind of force, Ron? It's hard for us to tell.
Yes, sir. It was hard to tell because they weren't letting anybody move it, and we don't know how much of it was in the ground or how much of it was, you know, just if it was just a piece laying on top of the ground. That's not known at this time.
Ron, you've done great work for us. We appreciate it very much. We'll be checking back with Ron Winning in just a little while, a photographer who stopped off to tell us, first of all, about one of the big pieces out there that we finally were able to see when he made connection with our live truck. Obviously, when something like this happens, we disperse people immediately. So we've got live trucks all around different points in the state and different people helping us gather information. And our whole crew, of course, is dispatched, and so we're able now to begin to show you some of these pictures as they come back in.
And we are waiting for a news conference from NASA. NASA Administrator Sean O'Keefe is supposed to give a statement, was supposed to give a statement about 10 minutes ago, but we understand they're trying to gather as much information as they can before they share it with us. So we are waiting on that. We understand that he has met, Mr. O'Keefe with NASA has met with the astronauts' families. They had been waiting at the Kennedy Space Center for the shuttle's return. 6 of the 7 astronauts were married, and 5 of them had children.
All right, our Robert Riggs is in Tyler now, so he's gone over to East Texas as well. We've got him on the telephone. Robert, what can you share with us?
Tracy, we're at the Tyler Airport where a U.S. Customs Service jet has arrived here from San Angelo awaiting orders on what to do. The pilots tell me that the military is going to be taking over the search operation here, that they're expecting the deployment of dozens and dozens of helicopters to organize a search. The airspace over the debris field, which is south of Tyler, over a multi-county area, mainly around the Nacogdoches area, has now been shut down to civilian air traffic. Only military aircraft are being allowed in. And I can tell you talking to these pilots, they're all shaking their head about, you know, where do you begin, because the debris is so widely spread.
Now, Robert, you were talking about the military coming in. I'm assuming that those are the folks at Fort Hood. Is that correct?
Fort Hood and apparently Barksdale Air Force Base also is going to play a major role in this, which is just east of here in Shreveport, Louisiana.
I'm going to ask our producer to go ahead and roll in that new video that we have from the Lufkin area, understanding that you're in Tyler, but I understand, too, that we have some video of some of the debris that is being picked up around the Lufkin area. This stuff is in some very small pieces out there, Robert.
Yeah, so we talked to the, very early in this, talked to the county judge of Nacogdoches County, which is about an hour south of where we are, and I think she had indicated that they maybe had a piece of debris 3 foot in diameter in that area.
Well, there's a rather large piece. It's hard to tell what these things are as you're looking at it. Some of it part of the machinery on board, some of it part of the fuselage or the heat shields. When it comes down like this, it's sort of like just, in some instances, just twisted and molten metal. So it's going to take the experts at NASA to begin to put this thing together, Robert.
Well, you know, this is now a huge, huge jigsaw puzzle, and one of the things they're apparently going to have to do, in talking to the pilots earlier, is use their global positioning systems, that when they pick up a piece of debris, you put in the coordinates to keep track of where all this is, because they're going to have to do a plot eventually of where the major debris fields are and pieces of debris that is recovered. And there was even some discussion of whether you know, they could gain anything by doing aerial photography of this area. But apparently they'll mark it up into grids and assign aircraft to those grids and start flying it.
Do you think they'll take all these pieces back down to the Kennedy Space Station and those hangars down there, Robert? Is that typically what they do, or they try to do something locally?
You know, from my coverage of various aircraft accidents, they try to find a major hangar to reassemble this stuff for a major building, but these are very small airports here, and I don't know that you've got the facilities to do it. You would at Barksdale Air Force Base, and perhaps that would be the location that would be a logical place to go.
Yeah, I suppose that would be the closest place where they'd have the kind of equipment and the hangar large enough to begin to reassemble this.
Yes.
Now, Robert, you mentioned that that area is going to be closed to commercial air traffic. Do we have any idea of the implications for the airlines in this area and what that means? I mean, is it they just divert it around, or is this something that is going to have an impact on air travel today?
I don't think it would have an impact. I think what they're trying to shut down is the various private pilots.
The small airports.
Small airports, small airplanes. I mean, I know of cases all the way up northeast Texas of friends that were jumping in their little Piper Cuffs and taking off and heading down here to see what they could see. I think that's what they're trying to eliminate, because they don't want to have any collisions between all of these military and government aircraft.
No matter how many times we come up and say, folks, please stay out of the area. We're going to bring you the latest video. You're going to be able to see it better if you stay there and watch CBS 11. No matter how many times we say it, Robert, there's going to be those folks. There will always be those folks who try to get into the area. And, you know, a gridlock could ensue if the authorities don't come and start directing that traffic back and away from these areas.
Yeah, and at this point, we really have not seen much, you know, local air traffic. And we were at the control center here at this airport a while ago, and they were to all pilots in the area that the airspace had been shut down and to clear it. These customs pilots thought that maybe they would be apt to go out and enforce it as well. They're in a jet, which is really not suitable for search.
Now, Robert, we are about 4 hours into this. The time frame that we are looking at, we spoke with a colonel from Fort Hood a couple of hours ago, Tracy, and they were waiting for word. Is this the kind of thing, should this be moving more rapidly, or what can we expect in the future in terms of search and recovery?
Well, you know, these bases are quite some distance from here, and you've got to realize Fort Hood, they've been gearing up for their deployment to the Persian Gulf. You know, down in Corpus Christi and Beaumont, you can see helicopters from their units just lined up being put aboard ships. So that would pose a problem as well.
Join our guessing game here, Robert. I know you've done work with NASA in the past. They've said absolutely nothing publicly yet. And Sean O'Keefe, the NASA administrator, was supposed to talk to us today at noon, and here it is, almost 12:18, and he still hasn't emerged. What do you think the holdup is?
Well, you know, Tracy, you remember when we were covering the Challenger crash? Well, I think there was, you know, some gap there, although you were